Today I'm going to show you how this Echo and Iris weave structure scarf or shawl is made. Hey there, I'm Christine Miller, creator and owner of explorefiber.com, and primarily I'm a fiber artist. I've done all kinds of processes, felting and basketry and knitting and crochet and stitching and dyeing, but weaving is where my heart beats. I've been weaving for 45 years, and one of the questions I get asked when I have my workout, it's like, well, how long does it take you to create a such and such? And you can keep track of your time if you just make a point of doing that. But I thought it would be really interesting to show the process of how something like this, my scarf shawl, was created. Now this is woven in the Echo and Iris style of weaving. And our local guild, the Dallas Handweavers and Spinners Guild, we spent 2 years doing a study group on weaving with Echo and Iris by Marian Stubenitsky. And it is, oh man, it is a juicy, juicy place to go. And I got really excited about exploring this sort of combination of color and structure and how it can really make your textiles sort of iridescent and just super exciting. So the scarf I'm showing you is one of the drafts that's in Marian's book, and this is just for those of you who are weavers or not. We'll just kind of hold this up a little bit, but this has, to get the full repeat, it's 703 passes of the shuttle. So I weave this on my Compu-dobby AVL because the computer does a great job of keeping the next instruction for throwing the shuttle, and I don't have to try to memorize the 703 different combinations. What I am going to give you a little bit of information. This is super drapey. The warp, which is the threads that run vertically, are 8-2 Textile rayon, and then the weft is a 60s 2 silk. Now I actually set this warp at 40 ends to the inch, which is super dense, but the 60s 2 silk is super light, and so it does a really interesting way of creating the fabric that makes it really nice and soft and drapey. So anyway, I'm going to show you kind of step by step how it happens so that you can find out, well, how does a hand woven garment get created? So I'll tell you in just a second. Okay, I am going to make my last bout for my warp. And I'm using a 8-2 Textile. I have 4 colors here. I have white, I don't know if you can see it, but I have white, light gray, dark gray, and black. And these colors, like the Echo and Iris structure, are going to repeat throughout the warp: white, light gray, dark gray, and black. So I'm ready to go to my loom. I've got my fingers around these 4 threads to keep them in order. And I'm using this warping station from Shacked, which I'm going to give them a big shout out. I love, love, love this warping station. But there's lots of ways you can set your yarns up, your cones. So I'm going to do 4 threads at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is clip it to the warping wheel. And this little reed up here is my 2-inch section that corresponds with my 2-inch section on the sectional beam. So since I have 40 ends to the inch, then I'm going to put 4 ends in each of the dents of this reed. So I have 20 dents, which will give me 80 ends in that 2-inch section, which is going to be what I will do on the reed at the loom when I thread it. It'll be 40 ends to the inch. Okay, so here we go, and I kind of rest my hand on the warping wheel just for some stability. 1, 2, 3, 6. So my warp is going to be 18 yards long, so the wheel is about 3 yards in the circumference. So I'm going around the wheel 6 times. My little counter doesn't work very well, so I just really count in my own head. And so I put that first 4 in the dent of this reed, down through the clip, back up on top of the spool, and now I'm going to go for my next 6. So since I don't really use my little clicker counter, every time the reed comes back around, that's how I count 1 revolution. And I just count to 6. And here we go for the next round. So I'm going to do this several more times until this entire reed is full, and then we will be ready to move this bout to the loom. Alright, so I have the next bout of my warp prepared on the warping wheel, and so we're going to take this 2-inch section and we're going to wind it onto the sectional beam that is also 2 inches. My trusty assistant, Mr. Miller, is going to be cranking the beam for me, and as he does that, I'm going to guide this section of warp, which is 18 yards long, remember, and it's going to go into this section of the beam. Oops. Okay, so I'm at the end of my bout, and I'm going to get ready to kind of secure it to the back beam. So just to make it a little easier, I'm going to turn my reed and take a piece of tape and just secure my warp on this side so it doesn't go flying away. And I have some little pieces of cardstock, and I'm going to tape my warp, really make sure that all of the threads get taped, and just tape this around, and then I can take this tape off, and then I'm ready to secure this to the sectional beam. Which is a little awkward, but basically all of this is just to keep that section in place as you're winding the next section. I just have one more section to go. Yay. So I'm just going to tape this down a little bit to that section as well. And you can use blue painter's tape or some masking tape. If it's not super sticky, you want to be sure you don't use like uber sticky tape. So, alright, the warp has all been wound on, and I've actually done quite a bit of threading already, but I'm going to show you a little bit of the threading of the harnesses. This loom has 16 harnesses. That means that 1 in every 16 threads can be lifted in any, pattern or way that you want. I mentioned the book by Marianne Stubenitsky, and so I'm actually doing one of the patterns in her book that turned out to be very successful. And what's interesting, the book gives me how to thread my threads through each one of the heddles on the harnesses. But the other thing about this particular pattern is every time you throw the shuttle, that's a pick, and it's got a repeat of 702 picks. That's a lot to keep up with. So you'll see my computer is in the background, and that's what's really great about a Compu-dobby interface with the loom, because you can put that pattern and the threading and the treadling instructions into the computer, and then you have 2 treadles on the loom that's like an on and off, and when you go back and forth to those, it just advances to the next line and raises the appropriate harnesses. So that's amazing, and it's very helpful. So I'll show you a little bit about how I actually go about threading the heddles. So you have to pull each individual heddle out. The computer is helping me by telling me which harness to raise. So this takes a lot of time, depending how many threads you have, and I have over 600 threads. How wide it is, how fine the yarn is, all of those things factor into the time that it takes to set up the loom. So the next process is a little tedious, but it is taking each individual thread or groups of threads and threading them through the reed, which is a metal piece that is inserted in the beater, separates the warp. And then once you tie it on, which I did not show in the video, then you start weaving. The AVL Compu-dobby loom is really great because all of the rising of the harnesses that you see in the background is really just controlled by the 2 foot treadles underneath the loom, and they toggle the computer to the next line and raise the appropriate harnesses. So it's very helpful for a weaver's brain to keep track of where they are. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of educate people about what goes into making a hand-woven textile. Oftentimes people will approach me when I have my work exhibited, or even if I'm wearing it about, and they want to say, wow, that's beautiful, how long did that take you? And the answer is really quite a lot of time, honestly. But it's all those different steps that have to be done to get to the end. And I didn't even show you everything, like the wet finishing or the machine, cutting them apart with zigzagging them with the machine, and then hand hemming them, and then steaming them. So anyway, I hope you have a better idea about what's involved with that. So I got 7 off of my 16 yard warp, and the last one I kept for myself. So I love this fabric because it's so squishy, drapey, that I can scrunch it up to make a nice scarf, or this one is a little bit longer than the others I made. I can unfurl it and I can bring it back and make a shawl and keep myself warm. In Texas, there's a lot of air conditioning that just freezes you to death. So that's what is the magic about weaving. And actually, with all the many years, 45 years of weaving, I still never know exactly what's going to happen until those threads start interlacing with each other, the colors and the textures and the way they're set up on the loom. And that's what creates the magic. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. And the next time you see some hand woven textiles, give that weaver a big compliment. Thanks.